Salut et bienvenue sur le podcast Rugby Connection. La Rochelle a récidive et battu Leinster pour remporter la Coupe des Champions. Little translation for you guys for my shoddy French. Hello and welcome to the Rugby Connection podcast. And then a little bit at the end there, La Rochelle have done it again, having beaten Leinster to win the Champions Cup. Before we get onto that, so I just had to mention that straight away. Murray, I'm joined with you again. It's the dynamic duo. How are you doing?
I'm all good. Yeah, it's been an interesting weekend of rugby, to say the least.
It's been a massive weekend of rugby. My God.
I mean, shall we start with the Friday night of the Challenge Cup final?
Yeah, let's do the Challenge Cup final. I think that's fit.
Yeah, it didn't go right, did it?
It's a double French header. Like, hang on, my flash goes long football. As always, I am unprepared for everything. Friday night Challenge Cup, Glasgow versus Toulon. Now, obviously, you and me were back in Glasgow because
This is why you do not back your rivals.
I believe first semi-final and first final for them.
Yeah, everything was a first this year for them.
But yeah, Toulon put the hurt on Glasgow, 43-19. And Toulon win the Challenge Cup again.
Yep, back in the winner's circle. It just felt like Glasgow wasn't even near it. Like, they were not close. It was 21-0 at halftime to Toulon. I mean, Sergio Parise was a nuisance. Cheslin Colby was everywhere.
A Cheslin Colby at fullback. I know at the World Cup he's probably not going to be there because we're going to have the likes of probably a Willemse and a Villiers-Leroux, but Cheslin Colby at fullback for Toulon anyway is an absolute nightmare of a player.
Yes, and I mean Baptiste Seren,
he's got to be up there in the picking for the cover squad going ahead.
Even just as cover, yeah, surely.
Like he's been there before.
He's no spring chicken anymore.
Yeah, he's no spring chicken. But his try on the 4th minute, he's taking the kicks as well. Another try in the 24th minute. Huh?
He's only 28. I thought he was a lot older than that. My apologies.
He feels like he's been around for time, but he's just one of those players who, you know, obviously the French team is stacked, but after a performance like that in a European final, my God, you've got to give the man some credit. You mentioned Sergio Parise. We said it before when they played Lyon. He's back at it. He scores his own try 17 minutes into the game. And again, like you said, absolute nuisance all over the park in terms of defense, the breakdown on attack. Even in his age, he's a hard man to stop. So massive credit to him.
It did come across as men versus boys, though.
Yeah, I mean, the second half was better. Kyle Steyn goes over for a try on 55. George Horn, I thought, slow start to the game, and I'll say slow start to the game for the whole Glasgow squad, but the second half, they did start coming into it. George Horn played well, second half especially. Kyle Steyn got 2 tries.
Do you think it was just nerves first final?
Nerves first final. I think it was just being outclassed. Like, I know Toulon had been there, done it before, and I think that showed. 43-19 doesn't look like a European final scoreline, but listen, credit to Glasgow, first semi-final, first final, like we said, and good run, but you got to the final hurdle, and unfortunately, when you get to the final hurdle and you're faced with a team like Toulon,
gotta start your game up.
It's just one of those things, isn't it? It's just one of those things. But it's going to be nice to see. Obviously, both teams will be in the Champions Cup next year. But it'd be nice to see if Toulon can maybe carry on this form. They're in the top 14 playoffs now as well, aren't they? Toulon. It was Toulon, La Rochelle, Toulouse, and someone else. shows how much attention I pay to the.
I will check now for you.
Is it Montpellier? No, I don't. Is it Montpellier?
So the top 8 as of right now is Toulouse, La Rochelle, Stade Francais, Racing 92, Bordeaux, Lyon, Bayonne, and Toulon.
Yeah, Bayonne's there. I think next season I might pay a bit more attention to the top 14 because obviously watching the French teams in Europe, they've been absolutely dominant.
They have. I mean, shall we talk about the big one on Saturday?
Shall we talk about this game, Murray? This game was, I said it to you, I said it before we started recording, as a neutral, this is the best game of rugby I have ever watched. And I think I put on my TikTok story, I said, if you are new to rugby and you want to get hooked on the sport, go back and watch this game because it had absolutely everything. It had a few bit of referee controversy. It had massive hits, clean breaks, the comeback that dreams are made of.
Yeah, the biggest comeback in Champions Cup final history.
Madness. Absolute madness.
And before the ball was even touched, it was a historic game because it was the first time ever in Champions Cup history, final history, again, that it was a repeat of the final the prior year. So there you go.
And the quickest try ever scored.
Dan Sheehan. Oh my God.
In fact, probably the quickest 17 points scored in Champions Cup history and probably a lot of other competitions. Anyway, La Rochelle 27, Leinster 26. We haven't even said that yet. But you would look at this game and you think, Christ, this was a tight game throughout. But no, Dan Sheehan, after an absolutely brilliantly worked set piece move from the line out, it was Jack Conan who ran in. They set up a dummy jumper in the line out. Jack Conan runs through the gap, and he actually jumps, catches the ball at the front of the line out. La Rochelle are not prepared for it. They don't have a player in that channel to defend.
No.
Jack Conan makes it up to essentially what I'd say 15 meters out, pops it to Dan Sheehan, and Dan Sheehan, possibly the quickest hooker, the quickest front rower, definitely in world rugby. He just jogs it over for a try in the first 40 seconds of the game.
That's insane. And then he does it again.
He does it again. O'Brien goes over for a try on the 6th minute after an absolutely insane 50-22 from James Lowe. Beautifully placed right on the 5 meter. It was, Leinster at the start of this game, you were watching it and you thought, Christ, this is going to be a 70+ point game. This is going to be a blowout. And then, 12 minutes in, Dan Sheehan goes over for another try. Gibson Park spots some space. Dan Sheehan, you can watch him if you just watch throughout that whole phase of play. He's just hanging out on the wing and Gibson Park spots him, threads a beautifully placed ball over. Dan Sheehan doesn't even have to move and essentially from a standing start just sprints it into the corner. And you're watching this game. At this point, La Rochelle are on a yellow card as well. And you're watching it and you're thinking this is just going to get worse and worse and worse. But the mentality of a team to fight back from 17-0 after 12 minutes.
No heads were dropped at all. Gregory Aldrich, captain.
Single point in that game did La Rochelle look like dropping their heads. Dante goes over for their first try and you're thinking, right, okay, it's still 17-7. It's, Leinster still quite comfortable with it. Byrne goes over, puts over a couple of kicks pretty much straight after that try is scored. You're thinking, Christ, okay, they've scored a try, but now they've conceded 3 and then they conceded 3 a few minutes later. But then Suentini goes over, beautifully teamwork try. La Rochelle just going through the phases, absolutely condensing Leinster's defense, and the cleanest of clean breaks opens up and he just jogs it through. And now you're thinking, what were we like 23-14 at halftime, and you're thinking, right, okay, game on.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And then that second half, Murray, my God.
I don't know where to begin. Actually, here's a question for you. And it is purely because of this. And he's done it all season. We've talked about it in the Six Nations that Romain Ntamac's not quite there. Mathieu Jalibert was injured. Is Anton Hastoy the answer?
Anton Hastoy was absolutely brilliant that game. I mean, he's quite a young fly half.
25, yeah.
25, mid-20s, got plenty of his career to go. Definitely a French cap there.
Get him.
Definitely a French cap there.
Let's get Anton squared.
Right now, you've got in the team, and we said it before, Anton Dupont, Romain Ntamack, and Thomas Ramos, or to be honest, anyone who, because for 3 years in a row now, France have rotated their starting fullback. Sorry, we had Jalibert last year. We had Ramos this year. We had Dulon the year before. Dulon played a pretty good game. La Rochelle in this game anyway. But yeah, obviously that it sort of takes a lot of the weight off Ntamack because he's a brilliant playmaker, but he's
got a beautiful kick on him as well.
He's got a good open field kicking, like in play kicking. There's a reason that Jalibert, that Ramos have taken the kicks the last 2 years, because obviously that there must be some sort of, it must be at a point where Ntamack isn't strong. But yeah, Hastoy has to be in the talks, especially, after winning the Champions Cup against Leinster.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, we spoke about the mentality that no heads dropped. Ronan O'Gara, I don't know what he is doing over in La Rochelle, but it just works. He is so passionate. He is so driven by the culture.
He's not even been coaching for long.
No.
He's not a veteran coach of any manner. He's won 2 Champions Cups. There have been coaches in the game for decades who haven't won 1 Champions Cup.
You know what? I'm going to make a bold claim right now. And you can say that I'm wrong if you want. That's okay. I think Ronan O'Gara is the Northern Hemisphere's answer to Scott Robertson. Just going to pump out titles, winning.
Why not? And after that game, I don't know if you've seen it, but he has come out and said that in the future, he would be very interested in coaching Ireland.
Yeah. Well, that was actually my next question. Like, Ronan O'Gara is Ireland coach or Lions head coach? What comes first?
Listen, at the moment, Farrell isn't being removed from that head coach because Andy Farrell has absolutely revolutionised that Irish team. But you can't ignore O'Gara's success in France and obviously in Europe, 2 Champions Cups.
I feel that this could actually benefit Andy Farrell.
What, make him step his game up a bit?
I'm not saying he needs to step his game up. Obviously, Ireland world number 1's Grand Slam winners, but just keep him on his toes, because if he slips off, O'Gara's there.
I think the next step for O'Gara has to be a head coach internationally. I can't see him taking an assistant coach or anything. His resume for such a short time is incredible. And even if he doesn't go on to coach Ireland, imagine someone like O'Gara coaching a Japan or a Fiji or, not a Scotland leader. I
was thinking a bit closer to him. Townsend signed a 2-year deal, so I'm just saying.
But you know what I mean? There's we need to see O'Gara, in my opinion, we need to see him in the international setup. Give him a Barbars team.
He's done it. He's done Barbarians.
Oh, he has, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think he's doing it again in 2 weeks.
Fine, give him the Lions. Give him the Lions.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
he's been there. He's played for them. He knows the team culture. He I don't know, but anyway,
I'm just saying the way the coaches. No, I'm thinking of Lions. The way the coaching stuff, because obviously it's most likely to be a home nation's head coach.
Yeah,
just how historically it worked. But
although you say that, Warren Gatland coached the 2021 Lions when he was not.
When he was Chiefs head coach.
So Or was he director of rugby? Or was he head coach?
I don't know.
One
He
of them.
didn't do well at Chiefs anyway.
But anyway,
I'm thinking, because like you could have, like, hypothetically, Andy Farrell's head coach, Gregor Townsend as attack, Ronan, you could shuffle it anyway.
Andy Farrell defense coach. I'd
Ronald Garner's head coach
give
with
Ronan O'Gara the head coach position, and then I'd go for someone like Townsend for
the attack again. Yeah,
the attack like last Lions tour personally, and against Australia this year with Eddie Jones at the helm. You know, it's gonna be good. But anyway,
Andy Farrell, defense coach.
Yeah,
Townsend attack. Borthwick is scrum coach. Townsend with O'Gara as head. There you go. You've got all
an absolutely brilliant coaching setup. I think Gatlin's days at the Lions are.
I can't do another Lions tour with Gatlin. I can't.
No.
I don't need 5. I can't do it.
I mean, he's what's his record right now? He's beaten the Aussies.
He assisted 09, so that doesn't count.
Yeah, he was assistant, lost to the South Africans. He
113 as head coach. Drew.
Yeah, he beat the Aussies in 2013. He drew with the All Blacks, then he lost to South Africa again as head coach. Yeah, I think we need a shuffle up. Obviously, personally, I think Andy Farrell is probably a head runner for 2023.
100%.
You know, he has to be. But I just want to
look at us talking about Lions before a World Cup.
Huh?
Look at us talking about Lions tours before a World Cup.
I know, it's disgusting, isn't it? I just want to quickly talk about the end of that game. So we had a bit of a card fest.
Yes, our friend of the show, Mike,
what a stupid thing to do. Ronan Kelleher gets yellow carded at anyone 72 minutes, which takes Leinster down to 14 men for the duration of the rest of the game. But then Dante goes off for a high shot, yellow carded 75 minutes. But then the killer blow, which because Leinster are right on the line there. La Rochelle, I mean, all season La Rochelle's defense on their own line has been immense. They put in an absolute shift again, but you were thinking Leinster are going to go over at some point. They have to. But then old Mikey boy, Al Alatoa, with just us. I understand in a game, and especially a game like that, the emotions are high. This has to be one of the most physical games of rugby I've seen in a long time as well. Big shots coming in from both teams, left, right, and centre. But just a stupid thing to do. 79 minutes into the game essentially gives La Rochelle the game at that point. Right when Leinster are in a scoring position, all they had to do was just make La Rochelle come offside, or because Jaco Piper was quite.
He was having none of it that game.
He was having none of it in terms of offside. I mean, he was giving penalties left, right, and centre when usually it would be just advantage or something. But no, he's just giving outright penalties.
I've got a question.
The breakdown was an absolute wild west, especially in that first half. Jaco Piper, and I understand in a big game like that, and just the physicality of these two teams. I can't imagine trying to coach the breakdown myself, but my God, was Jaco having an absolute mare at the breakdown, especially.
I mean, I'm sure it was the first half. Van der Fleer came in at the side and flipped.
But from an offside position. He came from an offside position at the side and flipped someone off. I can't remember exactly who it was. And it happened multiple times. Both teams just coming in from either from the side, offside, sealing over the ball and carrying on over the ball on their hands on the floor. You know, absolute Wild West. It cleaned up in the second half, definitely. And I think that's where La Rochelle started to get the upper hand in the breakdown because, I mean, that's what they do. That's their DNA, isn't it? Just set piece and breakdown.
There's a question.
At the end of the day, massive double header for La Rochelle. But I think I said to you, and I didn't ever think, I don't think I'd ever feel this way for Leinster, but I was absolutely over the moon for La Rochelle winning. And then the camera pans over to World Player of the Year, Josh van der Fleer, standing in the middle of the Aviva weeping. And I tell you what, my stomach just sank. My heart dropped. And I felt awful. I felt genuine. I felt gutted for Leinster. And I felt a massive sense of just sympathy for the fans and the players. Just how fucking brutal is that after you've been for 2 seasons in a row the dominant team in world rugby in terms of club competitions,
0 trophies to prove it.
0 trophies. I mean, they've got the Irish Shield.
Oh, that's a dead weight trophy.
You know what I mean? But
at least the other 3 have changed.
You know, and
as well. Don't matter. You know what I mean?
Especially this year, they hedged everything on the Champions Cup. They put out a B team against Munster. They got knocked out of the URC. They fielded their best possible team against La Rochelle, and they get beaten by a point.
So I've seen a lot of comments like this online. Is it time for Leo Cullen to go?
I don't. It's so hard because how can you fire a coach when his team have been dominant?
But he's not got anything to prove it.
But
recently, he has obviously got a hell of a resume.
But also, what good is having a hell of a season if you're not walking away with the silverware? If you can't do it in the semi-finals, the finals.
I said that to you and Harv when Harv was still with us. That I was like, yeah, you could do this unbeaten run and sit pretty at the table, get every quarterfinal, semi-final, final home advantage. Doesn't mean anything. Nobody remembers the losers.
I think that's the most brutal part as well for Leinster. Obviously, last year, I suppose the edge was taken off it a bit because they were playing away from home in La Rochelle's backyard. But this year, it was not only the RDS, it was their national stadium. It was the Aviva.
Yep.
You know, and I mean, obviously, the La Rochelle traveling fans are unbeaten. There were massive pockets of yellow and black throughout that whole stadium, but that stadium was blue.
Yeah.
And to just for the players, and that's where I feel just the most gutted, because I know I give a lot of stick to Leinster and Irish rugby, mainly because right now I feel like Ireland are one of the Springboks' biggest rivals, just obviously in terms of,
you
know what I mean. And obviously Leinster's everyone's biggest rival in terms of club competitions because they beat everyone. But the players themselves, I mean, I love the players. Josh van der Fleer, I love him. Doris, I think he's quality. Ross Byrne, quality player. And to see them absolutely just in tears and how gutted they were, I felt awful.
It's a strange one, and it tells you that it's not just a game.
It's not just a game. It definitely isn't. And especially, Champions Cup, it's mad. But then on the flip side of that, to see the reaction from the La Rochelle players, Jonathan Dante running onto the pitch like an excited 5-year-old child, just massive for the La Rochelle fans. I can't imagine what it was like to be a La Rochelle supporter in that stadium. But then again, I would dread to imagine what it was like to be a Leinster player or a Leinster supporter in that stadium.
It would be horrible. But I have got a question for you. Are we going next year?
Next year?
Challenge Cup, Champions Cup weekend is at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London, and early bird tickets are now available. And
I can make it down next year. London, not too bad. I'm going down to Twickenham in August to watch Springboks All Blacks. So London's a train.
I'm not saying all the prices because we're not sponsored by them, but for premium seats, I don't think it's that bad to get to 2 European finals. It's £157.
No, that's 2 tickets for the Springboks All Blacks cost me about 180.
Category 4, so the cheap seats for the finals weekend for next year. This is the one I'm more leaning to because I'm a bit tight-fisted when it comes to money. But again, still, £87.75.
Happy days.
Get category 4 tickets, get a cheap hotel, get a cheap flight.
And I mean, at the end of the day, because next year we're going to see the Stormers lift the Champions Cup and the Sharks lift the Challenge Cup. Yeah, I'm down for it.
Shut up. You need to get to the semi-final first.
Should we get on to some other rugby that was played because we've spent a long time with this.
Oh, yes, but that's because it was the focal point. But yeah, there was
the massive focal point. But we'll move on to Super Rugby like we usually do. We'll run through the scores quickly. On the Friday night, Moana Pacifica versus Crusaders. Yeah, Moana Pacifica at home couldn't get it done. Absolutely gutted. 41-7. Absolute routing for Moana Pacifica by the Crusaders. Reds versus Blues. I had high hopes for the Reds after last week, but 45-26 in their own backyard, the Blues came over and I suppose avenged the Chiefs. If we look at Saturday, Highlanders versus Rebels, 20 points to 17. The Rebels put up a good fight. Chiefs versus Hurricanes. This was a good game. 23-12. Chiefs getting back to their winning ways after an absolute gutting loss to the Reds in their own backyard last week. Tars versus Drua. Again, Tars at home and Drua on the road. 32-18. Now, this one's a big one. And we talked about Western Force making Perth a bit of a fortress. 34-19 over the top Aussie team, the Brumbies. A massive result for the Force. So
yeah, it's wild. I mean,
any of those games you want to go over?
Not so much the game, but Moana Pacifica's head coach has announced he is leaving at the end of the season.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to be nasty. Good, because it's not working.
They've had their moments, haven't they? And it's the same with Drua. I mean, both. It doesn't look like Drua or Pacifica are going to make the playoffs at this point now with their losses at the latter end of the season.
So
Pacifica only having 3 points.
So it's going to sound. Actually, you might understand it. I don't like the fact. Right. So Fiji and Drua play their home games in Fiji. That is the correct choice.
Moana Pacifica need to play their home games in Samoa.
In Samoa or Tonga. Why are you playing in New Zealand?
Yeah, it's stupid.
The crowds aren't there. The fan base is terrible.
That's the thing. You're not going to build a fan base for a team in New Zealand
that are doing rubbish.
That aren't. Do you know what I mean? Like
New Zealand, yeah.
You've already got 5 established franchises with fans who have been established for decades.
Yep.
You know, we've seen the success with Drua at home. We've seen the atmosphere that they can create, where they're, their home people, I suppose you could say, can really get behind the team because it's the first team that they've had.
Their team, yeah. But the thing I don't like, and again, this is where this disconnection feels. The whole thing when they were introducing Moana Pacifica to the Super Rugby teams, it's from the islands, it's from Samoa, it's from Tonga, it's from all the islands in between. I'm like, yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Then they go, yeah, we're based in New Zealand. Why? It doesn't make sense. You can't say that you're representing that part of the world and then, but we play our games here.
If we go back to the episode we did with Byron and we were talking about where Super Rugby is at, and Byron was saying how, the loss of the South African teams took a lot of the variety away from the competition.
Yeah.
And then I came in and said, obviously, in the past, you've had teams like the Jaguares and the Sunwolves, out of Japan, Jaguares, Argentina, again, bringing that variety. And Fiji and Drua and Moana Pacifica definitely brought variety into the competition. Fiji and Drua, obviously, pretty much an exclusively Fijian team. Moana Pacifica, sort of Samoa and Tonga combined. Do you think there's enough of a player base in both Samoa and Tonga individually to warrant having a team for both islands?
Not for both yet. I think you would have to split it right now between Samoa and Tonga.
Because what I would propose, obviously, you've got 5 Aussie teams.
Mm-hmm.
You've got 5 Kiwi teams. And then you've got the 2 island teams.
Mm-hmm.
I would propose bringing in maybe keeping Moana Pacifica maybe as the Samoan representative, bringing in a Tongan representative, and then potentially having, I don't know, maybe you can't really bring a Japanese franchise in again because they've got their own thing going on with League One. It's tricky because other Pacific nations, I suppose the USA, sort of, but they've got Major League Rugby. If you could find a way to introduce, maybe even bring Argentina, but even the Argentinians have Super Rugby South America.
Merge that.
I would merge
why
that.
is there two Super Rugbies?
You know, even if you do it like a two pool system and then have playoffs, it would. I just think right now, you know, you've got 12 teams in the competition, and I don't want to seem mean, but two of those teams in Drua and Pacifica realistically aren't competitive.
Well,
the Highlanders for the last couple of years haven't been competitive.
So it's interesting because Drua, so all teams have played 12. Drua's got 4 wins, and they were big wins. They beat Crusaders. I think they got beat by Blues, but you know,
yeah, they're upset teams, and like I said, they bring quality, especially Drua and Pacifica. Because I love Pacifica as well. They bring quality quality and intrigue to the competition. But if I were to ask you right now, Murray, out of the top 8, which teams are most likely to win it? Personally, I'd say Chiefs, Crusaders, Blues, or Hurricanes.
Yeah,
but just based off history and performance, I wouldn't even say the Brumbies.
No, the Brumbies are like the best Australian team, but then the gap between the Aussie franchise and the Kiwi franchise.
That's what I'm saying. That
is ridiculous.
The gap in just quality, skill. You know, it's not like in other competitions. Like I suppose in the URC, you've got Leinster, which are kind of front runners, but even in terms of the competition, I mean, they're not winning everything. They haven't won a URC yet.
Just rubs
you know, the Stormers did it last year, and now either the Stormers or Munster are going to win it this year. In the Premiership, we've got 2 different finals for the last 2 years. Top 14. I mean, Christ, someone else is winning that every year. Do you know what I mean? These other competitions, even Major League Rugby and League One, you know, even they're having genuine competition, different winners every year. Whereas, how many titles have the Crusaders won in a row now?
Oh, don't.
I mean, I know the Blues won sort of like like a half competition.
So, again, go back to the interview with Oliver Jaeger, the prop from Crusaders that we had on, because I asked him how does it work, because he said since he's came, they've won 6.
Yeah,
but they include Aotearoa tournaments,
right?
So
because that's what the Blues won a couple seasons ago, is the Aotearoa,
yeah. But then they did that stupid Trans-Tasman one,
the Trans-Tasman tournament, which was an absolute cop out. Yeah, all I'm saying is right now, I love Super Rugby until it gets to the playoffs. That's my 2 cents on the matter, because really I can't, like, this season, it's either going to be the Chiefs, Crusaders, or the Blues, maybe the Hurricanes. Probably the Chiefs or the Crusaders.
Most likely. Anyway, shall we do predictions for the next round of Super Rugby?
Let's do predictions. Let us do predictions. On the Friday night, we have Highlanders versus Reds. Highlanders at home. Do we think the Reds can cause another upset in New Zealand?
I mean, if you're going to do it, you do it against Highlanders.
I mean, you've already done against the Chiefs.
You know what? I'm going to say Reds by 4.
Yeah, I don't rate the Highlanders this season, in all fairness. I don't mean to sound harsh or mean, but yeah, I'm going to go Reds by solid 8 points.
Yeah, that's good.
We've got another Aussie derby, Rebels versus Force. Force away from home after having 2 home games in a row, 2 home victories.
I think the momentum's going to stay with them, though. I'm going to go for Force by 7.
I mean, both these teams have been some of my favorite watches. If I see a Rebels or a Force game, I tend to tune into one of those. But Rebels probably I'm going to give the back into this time. I'm going to say Rebels only by like 3 points.
That's fair. Big, nice cultural clash next.
Yes, this is for me. It's either going to be a blowout. Fijian Drua versus Moana Pacifica. By the way, Fijian Drua in Fiji. It's either going to be an absolute blowout for Fijian Drua, like I'm talking 70 plus points, or it's going to be a proper close game. What am I going to go for? Fijian Drua by 40.
40?
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to go the opposite. I'm going to say it's a nice close battle of the islands. I'm still going Drua, but only by 6.
We'll see what happens. I just have a feeling that Drua at home, they've done it against teams like the Crusaders.
Watch Moana Pacifica win by 14 or something.
That would be amazing. Listen, I'm not saying I don't want that to happen, but realistically, I can see Drua absolutely walking away with it. Next one, Crusaders back in Christchurch against the Waratahs.
Crusaders by 22.
Yeah, Crusaders, but I'm Crusaders by 15.
But
I think the Tars will give them a good go.
But Marky Mark's going to score.
Yeah, I think the thing is with Crusaders, we've seen it a lot of the times. I feel like Waratahs are going to have a brilliant first half, maybe even be ahead by a few, and then Crusaders second half are just going to absolutely just put their foot on their throats and run away with it. An absolute classic derby here: Blues versus Hurricanes, the battle of the brothers.
Oh, brother! Oh, the Barretts. I was like Savio's playing on the same team.
Yeah, and I was going to say Bodie versus Geordie, but
Blues by 9.
Do you reckon?
Yeah.
I don't know, I can see the Canes doing it. I want to go Canes by 5.
Fair enough. It's all right, yeah.
This will be an interesting one. Brumbies at home against the Chiefs.
I have to go Chiefs. Chiefs by 13. That sounds harsh, but
my brain is telling me I should go with the Chiefs, but my heart, I want to go with the Brumbies. So I'm going to say Brumbies by 2 points.
Ooh.
And we don't have any Sunday fixtures.
No, they don't do some. For some reason, they don't really do Sunday.
They sometimes do Sunday fixtures. But if we're talking about finals, we've got 2 coming up this weekend.
Yes.
We'll start with predictions for the Premiership final.
Sale.
Obviously, we've got Sale versus Sarries. I know you're going to back Sale, but let's just talk about the 2 teams throughout the tournament. Start of the season, both teams absolute front runners. Latter half, mid stage, and latter half of the season, they started to, with international gaps and whatnot, started to drop games. But at the end of the day, if you're looking at the season as a whole, definitely the 2 favorites, I'd say.
That's fair. I mean, they've been 1 and 2 all year. All
season. Obviously, the Saints and the Tigers were those bogey teams that might come in and cause the upset, but they haven't. A second in a row, I say, final for Sarries. How many finals have they been in a row now?
Saracens.
When did they get thingied for the salary cap?
3 years ago. So yeah, back.
Yeah, second final in a row after coming back from the whole salary cap issue. Realistically, it's going to be a battle of the fly halves, in my opinion. It's going to be Farrell versus Ford, and I think that's going to be the defining factor in this game.
You know what? I'm going purely on this, and I'm not saying it because it's against Saracens. That does help, but like Sale haven't won it since 2006. I'm pretty sure that was also the last time we were in the final.
Yeah.
And that's when they had like Jason Robinson and Steve Borthwick doing it all. So I don't know. I've just got this feeling that Alex Sanderson left Saracens to prove that he can do it. And I think this is how he proves that he can do it against the team that he left.
George Ford last game has convinced me that Sale might, but then again, I say that, but Owen Farrell was brilliant against the Saints as well.
Yeah, they were both brilliant.
It's honestly, I'm undecided at the moment. If I were to predict right now, I'd want Sale to win just off of the fact that it would be something new. But realistically, if you had put a gun to my head right now and you said who's going to win, I wouldn't be able to tell you. Yeah, you'd have to take the shot, honestly. But
come on, gonna have to rush you.
Sale by a point.
Oh God, I want to say Sale by 3. It will be a penalty kick, but I'm going to say Sale by 3.
Okay. We're both back in Sale, but like I said,
me backing a team that's against Saracens isn't new.
No, it isn't new. But for me, I have no malice against the Saracens, so
I have malice.
Yeah. It's going to be a hell of a finale to the Premiership. This Premiership has been brilliant in a lot of aspects, and then unfortunately overshadowed by a lot of other aspects that I don't really want to talk about again.
Not doing it again, no. I can't afford to keep talking about the same depressing
stuff. Yeah, we'll talk about some rugby news after, but we'll talk about the URC final first. My favorite competition, obviously.
Hosting Munster.
Stormers hosting Munster. I mean, the Stormers last week, when they found out they had the home final, celebrated like they had already lifted the cup.
Yeah, but don't let it get to your heads, boys. We know what happens when you host.
Listen, if I was a Stormers player, Stormers coach, a Stormers fan, I would be confident in my team's ability, but I wouldn't have etched out the Stormers' name on the trophy just yet. Because Munster have been to Cape Town and they've beaten the Stormers already this season. Is it going to happen twice in a row? Personally, I think unlikely. But they've done it. Do you know what I mean? It's not a case of Stormers in Cape Town. Nah. You know, it's a case of Stormers in Cape Town. They should get the job done, but they might not.
You know what? Right? Everyone keeps bashing. I don't know why people are bashing Ireland because Leinster buggered it.
Yeah, I noticed that a lot of people taking Leinster's loss in the Champions Cup, and also most confusingly, Leinster's loss in the semi-final against Munster in the URC as a sign that Irish rugby is terrible. You do realise Munster are an Irish team as well.
No way. What? No.
I saw that. I saw that, especially with the semi-final. They're like, Leinster bombed out the semi-final. How are Ireland going to make it to any sort of good position in the World Cup? Like, Munster have a fair few Irish players themselves.
Mm.
You know? Tyburn, Peter O'Mahony, to name a couple.
Yeah, Joey Carberry,
Joey Carberry, yeah.
Jack Crawley, who is the future.
But yeah,
Casey. Shall I continue?
Yeah, Munster versus Stormers. Realistically, the Stormers should win this game.
I really want to see
it's there for them to win it, Murray. It's there for them to win it. Again, it's there for Munster to make the upset.
I'm playing the same card twice that I've done with the Sale prediction. It has been a while since Munster have won anything. Go for it. I like it when it doesn't matter what team it is. I do like it when it's like it's the first time in God knows how many years.
Oh, the Christ. Well, in that case, the day Zebre lift the URC trophy is going to be absolutely phenomenal.
Scenes. We're all going to party in Parma.
I think my grandchildren won't even be alive when that happens.
Oh God, we'll be long gone by the time Zebra
I
win.
think rugby might have. To be honest, I think an asteroid might have hit the Earth before that.
Probably.
But no, listen. If we're going on to predictions, I'm obviously going to back the Stormers. My patriotic sense is going to kick in. Obviously, for South African rugby, it would be a big win to take the URC, keep the URC in South Africa. Whether it's the Stormers, Bulls, Lions. Obviously, ideally, it would be the Sharks lifting the trophy, but it's not going to be. But Stormers by 14 in the URC final at home.
Munster by 5. Yeah, sure.
I'm
Stormers
jersey and work on Saturday. It's going to be brilliant. I'm going to watch Stephen Kitsoff lift the trophy again.
I'm going to bring on my fluorescent green Munster jersey.
The thing is, in my opinion, it's less about seeing Stormers lift the trophy, and it's more about seeing those key players ready for the World Cup in talks for the Springboks lifting the trophy, like obviously with a Sia Khaleesi out for injury, like a Dion Furry, he might be old, but I say take him to the World Cup, especially with the doubts of a Sia Khaleesi being out, like a Stephen Kitsoff, like a Damien Willems, even maybe a Herschel Yankees, but it's just what I'm saying. Do you know what I mean? Even a Diamani. He needs to be in the shout for a Springbok cap at some point. That's what I'm just saying.
That's fair. Rugby news. I mean, we've had a lot of retirements this week.
A lot of retirements, and that's what I want to touch on first. Obviously, Josh Navidi. We're going on to the Wales anyway. Josh Navidi retired a couple of weeks ago now, but in this last week, an absolute blow to Welsh rugby. The Alan Wynne-Jones was unexpected, but I can understand it.
I think both were actually unexpected just because of how close we are to the World Cup.
That's what I'm saying.
For those that don't know, Alan Wynne-Jones has called time on his international career, and so has Justin Tipuric.
Justin Tipuric is the one that caught me off guard because I don't think he's been playing off form or any. I still think
the keeper. Immediate effect. They're not going to the World Cup.
No, they're not going to the World Cup. Both of them named in Gatland's initial 50-something man squad for the World Cup.
Well, I don't get, and this is, I'm gonna make propose a little theory. Now, this is purely based off the statement Alan Wynne-Jones released. After sitting, usually when you retire, it's after sitting with the family and that. He said after speaking with the WRU, do you think they've kind of had to push them out because of money? And I hope that that's not true. I hope that they've not pushed out the biggest.
It's a possibility with the state of the WRU. In terms of, obviously, I mean, there was doubts that the England-Wales game was even going to take place due to players striking over not being paid, essentially, and their contracts not being contracts, essentially, and in the club scene as well for the 4 Welsh regions as well. That has been all over the place in the news and whatnot. Especially, obviously, I live in Wales. Christ, it's been on the tongues of every rugby supporter. What the bloody hell is happening to Welsh rugby? But
I just feel like the timing to naturally retire.
But that's what I'm saying. Like I understand. Like if it wasn't a World Cup year, it probably wouldn't have shocked me. But the fact a World Cup is mere months away,
yeah,
I would have thought both these players would have gone on. Like Josh Navidi was a clear, obvious retirement due to injury, concussion. Or no, it wasn't concussion. It was neck injury, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But Alan Wynne-Jones, although he might not be on form right now, he's still a key leadership figure in that Welsh team. He's the most capped international player of all time in rugby history.
So I've got it here with what he said, and that's what's like got alarm bells ringing in my head. Having been selected in this year's preliminary World Cup squad And after ongoing dialogue with the coaching staff and the WRU, I've decided to step away from the international game.
Just all right. Why? Like, why?
So after 17 years, I look back on special memories with Welsh greats and future Welsh greats. My grandfather and father being nurtured my passion for rugby in my younger days, which has continued throughout. If the passion's still there, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it just feels like they've done something.
And Justin Tipuric, I feel like is an even bigger blow because he's still on form, in my opinion. He's still quality. He's still world class, in my opinion, as a back row. But I will say on the flip side, in terms of Welsh rugby going forward, could this be a positive aspect? Because I mean, if it wasn't a World Cup year, people have been calling for Alan Wyn-Jones to retire for years,
myself included.
Well, exactly, and it's not, but it's in no way, based on his character or if he's getting on, and he isn't the player he used to be. None of us would be the player we used to be at that age. At the end of the day, he's had the best career of any rugby player. With the amount of international caps, 150, what, 5 international caps, 150 something.
And with the
12, the big 12 Lion tests.
Yeah, so if you include because that now comes under international caps.
So he's had over 160 international games.
He's got 170 international caps.
He made his first cap in 2006.
5.
I
think. It was against Argentina, I know that.
Either 2005 or 2006. How stupidly insane is that? And at the end of the day, just as a rugby fan, it took me, because obviously it's Alan Wyn-Jones. Whether you like Welsh rugby or whatnot, he is one of those names who it goes hand in hand with rugby.
Yeah.
And I mean, after his retirement, I think, in my opinion, he will go down as the greatest Welsh player.
I think he's already
ever played the sport.
I think he's already got that. So
one of the top 5 players to ever play the sport in terms of just his impact on the sport, in my opinion.
He'll go down as one of the best captains. I'm not sure if he'll go down as the best players.
But also, Justin Tipuric on 93 caps, only 7 more caps needed to hit the century. All he needed to do was play some summer tests and a World Cup, and he would have hit the century.
Yep. Again,
that's what baffled me the most. I'd understand after the World Cup if he put up his gloves, but yeah, it's interesting. It's like you said, whether it could be due to WRU not being able to afford them essentially, or maybe there's a disagreement there, or maybe it is just because they genuinely can't be asked to go play another World Cup. Maybe it's due to the state of world rugby at the moment. Maybe they don't want to go to a World Cup and potentially only make a quarterfinal or even get put out in the pool stages. Because, looking at it, that's probably where Wales are going to end up. Brutal, but realistic.
More now, yeah, because they don't really have anyone coming through.
Well, that's the thing. Like, it could be a positive because there are those spots to fill now, but are there those players to fill it? Is the quality of Welsh rugby producing players who can step up right now and fill the boots of an Alan Wyn-Jones and fill the boots of we've got players like Will Rowlands, I think can step up. Jack Morgan obviously has stepped up in the Six Nations. Not a good campaign for Wales, but Jack Morgan was definitely a standout player.
Yeah.
What's his name? I keep mispronouncing his surname for Exeter Chief, Chris.
Oh, Chunza,
that's it. He's had a few Welsh caps.
He's special,
and he can play back row and second row, I believe.
Yeah.
So there are the players that can come through. You've got, but yeah,
it's an interesting one. But I think we'll just round off there. Really, there's not really much else that's.
Apart from game of the week quickly.
Apart from, sadly, sorry, I know you said you weren't going to mention it. I'm just going to run it off quickly. Wasps are essentially finished They have been sent to the bottom tier of English rugby.
The lowest of the low.
And again, sort it out. We'll go back to other episodes because we've said it all before. But
should we quickly do random game of the week?
Random game of the week. Actually, I'm going to give a shout out to Argentina, who won the London Sevens. So that was good. And All Black Sevens winning this World Series again, which is all good, which is fun. But my random game of the week this week is from a league we kind of mentioned earlier. It's from Super Rugby Americas. I've gone for Doggos 15, beating the American Raptors 40 points to 32.
The American Raptors, if you don't know, used to compete in the MLR, I believe in the inaugural season, but they were the Colorado Raptors, I believe, and got taken out of that competition. But yeah, they're playing in Super Rugby Americas as the USA's representative team, I believe. But yeah, interesting.
They're not repping very well because I looked at the league. Doggos de Cordoba, as their full name.
Oh, Doggos still on top. Last time I checked, they were on top.
They're second. Penarol Rugby?
Penarol, which is...
I haven't...
Is that Uruguay's representative?
I'll Google it. I'll quickly type it up, and it sounds like a painkiller.
It does, doesn't it? Oh, I need to take a Penarol for my headache.
Penarol Rugby. Uruguay. Fucking well done. Part of my French.
Yeah, Super Rugby America's knowledge. My random game of the week comes from Major League Rugby. The ultimate underdogs in that competition, the Dallas Jackals, getting their second win, I believe, over Rugby ATL, 27-19, away from home as well. So although the Jackals are right at the bottom, actually they're not. They're just above the Chicago Hounds in the Western Conference, but they ain't getting anywhere far. Yeah, it's, you know, good on the Dallas Jackals for actually starting to win games instead. Like last season, they got absolutely slapped by everyone. So they've beaten the Toronto Arrows now, and they've beaten Rugby ATL.
There we go.
Well done, Jackals. And also, just quick honourable mention: the Sharks in the Curry Cup beat the Cheetahs for the second time in a row, and we're now joint first, top of the table. Couldn't leave without mentioning that. Sorry, Murray. It was coming. It was inevitable. But yeah, Sharks are going to win the Curry Cup. Happy days.
Okay, there you go. Cam's happy. We'll end it like that. There we go. That's a good way to end. Well, as always, there's another interview coming out because it's what we do. Fresh off the Six Nations. Fresh off the TikTok Six Nations. I spoke with the queen of turnovers, Rachel McLaughlin, and she was so lovely. It was just the best chat. It's not even an interview. It is a chat that got recorded.
That's the best. Those are the best episodes, though.
I mean, it caught me off guard. I love it. I love the fact that it caught me off guard. She asked me the questions back.
Murray, what was your Six Nations like?
Not that one. It was pretty good. Yeah, well, it was actually. There you go.
Yeah, pretty good.
Pay was even better. But yeah, Rachel McLaughlin out this week, and we're back with another cap in Scotland next week with Beth Blacklock. She's just in the camp, but she's lovely, and what she does away from rugby is ridiculously clever. It's nuts. She's got a master's degree in data engineering.
Show off.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, both great interviews, both great girls. Give it what, and there's still big fish coming. It's just trying to get the dates sorted. I can't say any more than that. Unless we've got dates sorted, then we can't go public with it. But oh my god, there's some.
There's some in the works. Murray's told me a few that he's got in the works, and there are some big interviews coming, guys, if we can secure them. But yeah.
Can't pay for them. I might just have to
beg. Please.
Come on. But yeah, Rugby Connection podcast. We are on YouTube, obviously, Spotify. We're on LinkedIn, but it's mostly me.
Yeah, it's you. I am not on LinkedIn. Murray is on LinkedIn.
I'm trying to mention as many things every episode, and I can't.
We're on TikTok though, both for us on TikTok and the pod page on TikTok.
Yes,
And clips, if you miss the episodes on YouTube and Spotify, which you definitely shouldn't be doing, clips of just don't miss it. Clips of these episodes and clips of all the interviews go up on our TikTok page. So if you miss anything or you want to see some of the highlights of the episodes.
Yep. And even in the off season, I'm going to do something special. I'm just going to pick a random interview, or Cam's going to help me pick a random interview from
a few throwbacks throughout episodes and interviews. Why not?
Yeah, just random stuff that's still relevant, not just stuff that makes sense. With
I want a clip of going back to me saying Zebra are going to win the URC, because I'm pretty sure I said that at some point during the episodes.
We said it tonight, kind of.
Zebra are going to win the URC. Just clip that. Zebra are going to win the URC. Anyway, cheers guys for watching.